Once upon a time, this bike would have been much loved. Back in 1981, somebody would have paid £800 for this bike, and over 40 years later, here I am with the same bike after also paying £800 for it. Now I know, once adjusted for inflation, I paid a lot less for it. But still, I wonder, could I repair this bike for what it would have cost in 1981, which would have been £3,000.
Thing is, this bike is in terrible condition. It hasn't been used in a very long time.
Has this not been used then since
As far
86?
as I know, they say
Really?
the clutch disc is on it. Like last MOT's 86.
So it'll be a miracle if I can rebuild it for a couple of grand.
Now I want to give you a little update because I might have treated myself to a few little goodies. Come this way into the workshop. Well, check this out. That there is a floor press. Also, come this way because this is a pillar drill. As some of you might or might not know, I get a lot of bolts that get stuck. They're stubborn, they don't want to come out. This beauty should help matters. Down here, look at this little bad boy. That there is a 3 horsepower air compressor. Oh, and I also have a sandblaster coming too. That will really help keep costs down and help me get better. Now then, there are a couple of things I'd love to do before we get stuck into this Super Dream. And that is, we really got to see what's inside this top box. Look how rusty this key is as well. Look at it. Anyway, let's check it out. See if this key will actually open the top box. A little bit stiff. The coat. Dusty. Oh. Oh, God. Nothing too special. There's no gold or anything in there. Does that make you cough? The other thing I'd like to do before we go ahead and strip the bike down is to check the compression. What I'm going to do is while I'm turning the bike over, I'm going to tug on this cable, which will give me a wide open throttle. And that way we can ensure that we're getting enough air through the system to give me an accurate reading on the compression check. Now the reason why I'm doing the compression check is merely just to gauge the condition of the engine. It'll be nice to know what compression we have before we strip the whole bike down. That way, when I'm rebuilding the bike, I know if I need to improve in that area.
So with the compression tester plumbed in, a new battery plugged in, I turn the ignition on and simply turn the bike over.
"150 PSI, mate." So I suppose what we could do next, before we go ahead and strip the bike down, is to check for any oil. In the previous upload, we did a first start on the bike. If you haven't seen it, go check it out, but the bike kind of started, sort of idled, off the road since 1986. Crazy stuff. But yeah, it'd be just interested to know what the oil looks like and if there is indeed any oil. Anyway, let's proceed.
Looking at the rusty oil drain plug though, I was just hoping I could loosen it off, which surprisingly, it was fine.
Really pleased about that because other than the fact that it is quite runny, at least I know there was oil in the engine for the first start. I mean, it started for like 5 seconds maximum. I suppose now we need to proceed with stripping this old beast down. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so it made sense to me that the best thing to remove first would be the tatty exhaust system, though experience tells me exhaust studs are horrible to remove.
It's moving ever so slightly, but I'm terrified it's gonna snap. Wouldn't be my first time an exhaust stud snaps on this channel. That could be a nightmare. Right, I'm a bit nervous, so I'm going to use a heat gun. I mean, it is turning. It's turning ever so slightly, but I'm just terrified. I'd rather be patient. Okay, don't want to snap anything. Not yet, anyway. Too early into this rebuild. Moving ever so slightly. Don't want to rush it. I do not want to rush it.
If this rusty stud bolt snaps, it is in a really awkward place to get to.
Okay, was that Honda build quality, or was that the fact that I'm just getting that little bit better at this whole motorcycle rebuild lark? Here is one of the exhaust studs. Look at that. Oh, rusty, very rusty. But listen, I am so grateful all 4 of those exhaust studs have been removed. Now I can crack on. I didn't snap anything, can you believe it? I didn't snap an exhaust stud. Oh. Anyway, yeah, let's carry on.
However, we shouldn't get our hopes up just yet.
Oh, really tight. Okay, so we are running into problems already. I had a ring spanner on the back end of this rear foot peg, and I thought a ring spanner, that should grip it properly, but it's like butter. It's just disintegrating. It's literally, yeah, not good, is it? We haven't got very far and we're already getting trouble. So yeah, should be fun. Oh. Okay, so those rear foot pegs, they are not going to shift. I'm just going to end up rounding off the other bolt the other side. So what I'm going to do now is remove that rear wheel. I reckon if I can get behind these brackets, there's some bolts here. If I remove these bolts, I can take off this bracket and also the other side, and that'll allow me to get the exhaust system off that way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Look how rusty it is. Oh, I'm having fun. That's the main thing. I'm having fun. That rear wheel has probably not been removed from the bike, well, for as long as I've been on this planet. So I'm just trying to figure out how old these tyres are. Can somebody in the comment section let me know what that stands for? They could be the originals. They could be the originals. Should also have a look at the rear brake shoes.
I think that goes to show the lack of use this bike had. I mean, it's covered 10,000 miles, and in that period, maybe whoever's riding it wasn't really using the rear brake. It is strange that the rear drum brake is almost like new, whereas the rest of the bike looks like it has been in the sea. Anyway, let's continue.
Okay, so I'm not sure my idea is going to work because I'll come around to this bracket and there are bolts tucked under there. Look, can you see? Can you see? Where's my torch? How am I going to get on those bolts with the exhaust in the way? And they make up that part of the bracket. So I'm going to have to think of another way around it. Maybe I just attack the bolts I couldn't get out in the first place. Maybe use some mole grips. Maybe that's the way forward.
Before I do that though, I gain more access by removing the chain guard. With the mole grip attached, we go for it. And it comes off. Though the other side, not so easy.
This is doing my head in.
Though a good amount of heat helped shift the bolt. And so I continue removing the rest of the exhaust bolts. That one snapped though. Okay, so I've now moved on to removing the gear peg. Thing is, this exhaust doesn't seem to want to come away from the bike. So I think, to get around this, I had to remove the opposite sides, foot peg and brake pedal. Thankfully though, those two bolts we looked at earlier seem to come loose pretty easily. Seems though the exhaust still doesn't want to come away from the bike, and actually on closer inspection I discover the exhaust centre box is catching on the bottom of the engine. So there is only one thing for it, and that is to pull the exhaust apart. bit hot. That was a challenge, but we succeeded. Oh yes.
And after the same punishment the opposite side, I can also dismantle the header pipe.
Cool. That was really easy, wasn't it? Good to see though the exhaust is removed. However, look at this. This is not good. There's a great big hole in that. I'm not sure we can save that. Maybe we can, but there's plenty of holes in it. I mean, maybe we can weld it up. Or have somebody weld it up. Maybe I can learn how to weld. But yeah, look at it. That's not great. Also here as well. The exhaust is very heavy actually. Maybe we can look at aftermarket systems. Maybe there's a nice fancy exhaust. Who knows? But I'm glad it's off. It means we can maybe drop the engine next. Maybe.
Removing the engine next may have been a little wishful thinking. We still have quite a bit to remove, so we will let the tools do the talking. While I continue to strip this wet dream down, I'd love to take a moment to let you know that if you find these restoration projects intriguing and would love to help support me bringing old derelict bikes like this back to life, please consider supporting me. You can do this by either becoming a YouTube member of Bikes of Ride, or you can support me via Patreon. As a Patreon member, you'll also have the opportunity to win selected project bikes featured on this channel. This is my way of giving back to those of you who support me in keeping this passion alive. I will leave links in the description if you would like to know more.
So we're making good progress. Next, we need to remove these carbs, but I don't think they're going to come off too easily. So what I might do is undo a couple of those 8mm bolts. Is that called a boot? I think it's called a boot. Yeah, I'll remove that instead, rather than trying to pull that carb out of that rubber, because that's going to be solid. Yeah. We are loving life. We're doing all right, aren't we? Next, we got to drop this engine. So a very interesting design flaw, this one. Given that it's a Honda, I'm quite surprised. The engine bolt will not go any further than that because of the engine casing. Do you know what? I reckon this bike was absolutely mint when it was put away for the very last time. Look at the state of the flywheel. Plus, these bolts, how is it they look brand new? And you know, given that it was so mint, I think, when it was put away, it's kind of making it a little bit easier than it should be. I know it's been difficult stripping the bike down so far, but a lot of it has come undone. Some bolts seem to have undone easier than I thought.
Almost there with the engine mounts, we removed the last one.
Every engine bolt has been removed.
And before we drop the engine, we just need to remove all the engine's ancillary connections. First up, the starter motor. Then we remove the speedo cable. Which allows us to now slowly drop the engine.
And just like that, we've got the CB250 engine on my workbench. I suppose we should go ahead and just strip the rest of the bike down. Let me go on to a time lapse and get through that really quickly. So I was doing a time lapse and I got so far. I removed the headlight, I removed the clocks, I've removed the kickstand and some other bits and pieces such as the switchgear and whatnot. But I've gone and tried to remove this front wheel and it's not coming off. Obviously I've undone the bolt, moved the nut, sorry, and I've undone the pinch bolts down here, but it's not shifting. I've been smacking the hell out of it with a mallet, but it's not going. It is not shifting. Okay, so I think that's a sign for me to walk away and come back another day, which I'm happy to do so. I've been here all day. Made incredible progress. We've got the engine on the workbench. Those front forks and that front wheel, I'm sure I'll be able to figure out once I come back to it another day. That'll be obviously in the next upload. We've got all of the components to the bike, all on the floor across the way there. We're set up nicely to continue having fun with this wet dream. Thanks for watching. See you later.